But let us see what periodic table can tell us about hydrogen we can use in chemistry. Well, first thing I did, so to zoom it out, I made this kind of cards, just like Dmitri Mendeleev, who published the very first periodic table back in 1869. And that table had the power of prediction. Well, as any scientist is expected to deliver. He also was a philosopher, no less than our good friend Democritus. One of his creeds was work. Look for peace and serenity in work. You will find it nowhere else. Or, the most all-penetrating spirit, which will open the possibility of tilting not tables but planets, is the spirit of free human inquiry. Believe only in that. And my favorite, there is nothing in this world that I fear to say. Well, to be a scientist, you have to be brave. With his periodic table, Mendeleev predicted not only existence of several elements, but he described their properties in great detail, which was considered quite bold, if not wild at that time. On the current periodic table, you can see over 100 elements. Well, they knew only 62 back then, but they played cards a lot. I liked playing solitaire when I was a kid, so when I heard Mendeleev made cards with elements and kept arranging and rearranging them to figure out the periodicness, I could totally see how that could help him to make his predictions. One of the solitaire versions I used to play was to place the whole deck of 36 cards face down in 4 rows, in 4 lines. And then you start opening them with the purpose to rearrange it in such a way so each line would have one suit in ascending ranks order. Well, like this line would be all hearts from 6 to ace. Next line would be, let's say, pikes from 6 to ace, and etc. 2 more suits. But sometimes, for whatever reason, there would be a few cards unopened, left unopened, which is almost a perfect analogy to the elements which were not opened, not discovered yet in 1869 when Mendeleev published his very first periodic table. But because he already saw the system in his mind, if lines are all in ascending ranks order, then columns would have same rank. For example, we don't have this card open, but because it's in the column of aces, you can expect this card would have similar properties, like it would beat all the lower ranked cards. So he theoretically predicted the existence of nowadays gallium. He called it eka aluminum, where eka means one from Sanskrit. So 1 line below aluminum, eka aluminum. And he describes the properties of this element, which was discovered a few years later, after the periodic table was published, by French scientist who named it after his native land of France, gallium. Well, very similar story about germanium. Mendeleev called it silicon. And few years after the periodic table was published, now German scientists discovered the element and he named it germanium, naturally. Very similar story about a few more elements Mendeleev predicted with his periodic table of elements. Well, forgive me, it was my lyrical digression into the history of periodic table. I just couldn't help it. But well, let us get back to our hydrogen on the current periodic table.